Does the Bible teach that humans are more than just their bodies? By J.P. Moreland. Throughout history, most Christians have believed in the souls of men and beasts. To take an expression from Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, animals and humans are composed of an immaterial entity, a soul, and a body. The main biblical emphasis is on the functional, holistic unity of a human being, but this unity includes a dualist distinction of body and soul. The human soul, while not by nature immortal, is nevertheless capable of entering an intermediate disembodied state upon death, and eventually being reunited with a resurrected body. By contrast, animal souls do not reflect the image of God and most likely do not survive death. There are two main lines of argument for dualism: biblical anthropological terms and biblical teaching about life after death. Number one, Old Testament anthropological terms. Biblical anthropological terms exhibit a wide field of meanings, and so we must take care to interpret each occurrence in its context. The two most important Old Testament terms are nephesh, frequently translated as soul, and ruach, frequently translated spirit. Nephesh sometimes refers to God as an immaterial, transcendent self, a seat of mind, will, emotion, etc. See Job 23:13 and Amos 6:8. It is similarly applied to humans. Deuteronomy 6:5, 21:14, Proverbs 21:10, Isaiah 26:9, and Micah 7:1. It also refers to a vital entity that makes something alive. Psalm 30 verse 3, Psalm 86:13, and Proverbs 3:22. Finally, nephesh, or soul, refers to the continuing center of personal identity that departs to the afterlife as the last breath ceases. Genesis 35:18. See also 1 Kings 17:21 through 22, Psalm 16:10, Psalms 30 verse 3, Psalms 49:15, Psalms 86:13, Psalms 139:8, and Lamentations 1:1. The Bible regularly speaks of death and resurrection in terms of the departure and return of the soul. Indeed, the problem of necromancy throughout Israel's history, that is, the practice of trying to communicate with the dead in Sheol, see Deuteronomy 18:9 through 14, 1 Samuel 28:7 through 25, seems to presuppose the view that people continue to live conscious lives after the death of their bodies. Ruach, frequently translated spirit, sometimes signifies a vital power that infuses something, animates it, and gives it life and consciousness. Thus, the ruach in a man is formed by the Lord, Zechariah 12, verse 1, proceeds from and returns to him, and is that which gives man life, Job 34:14. In Ezekiel 37, God takes dry bones, reconstitutes human bodies of flesh, and then adds a ruach, or spirit, to these bodies to make them living persons. See Genesis 2, verse 7. There is no ruach, or spirit, in physical idols, and thus they cannot arise and possess consciousness. Jeremiah 10:14 and Habakkuk 2:19. Ruach, or spirit, also refers to an independent, invisible, conscious being, as when God employs a spirit to accomplish some purpose. 2 Kings 19:7 and 2 Kings 22:21 through 23. In this sense, the Lord is called the God who gives breath to all flesh. Nehemiah 27:16. See also 16:22. Here, spirit means an individual conscious being distinct from the body. Moreover, ruach also refers to the seat of various states of consciousness, including will, Deuteronomy 2, verse 30, Psalm 51:10 through 12, and Jeremiah 51:11. Thought, Isaiah 29:24, emotion, Judges 8:3 and 1 Kings 21:4, and one's moral or spiritual condition, Proverbs 18:14, Ecclesiastes 7:8. Number 2, the Old Testament on life after death. The Old Testament depicts individual survival after physical death in a disembodied form. The dead in Sheol are called Rephaim. Old Testament teaching about life after death is best understood in terms of a diminished, though conscious, form of disembodied personal survival in an intermediate state. First, the Old Testament often depicts life in Sheol as lethargic, inactive, and resembling an unconscious coma. Job 3:13, Psalms 88:10 through 12, Psalms 115, 17 through 18, Ecclesiastes 9:10, and Isaiah 38:18. However, it also describes the dead in Sheol as being with family, awake, and active on occasion. Isaiah 14:9 through 10. Second, the Hebrew scriptures clearly teach the practice of necromancy, that is, communicating with the dead, as a real possibility, and on some occasions an actuality. See Leviticus 19:31, Leviticus 20 verse 6, Deuteronomy 18:11, 1 Samuel 28, and Isaiah 8:19. Third, according to the Old Testament, the nephesh, or soul, a conscious person without flesh and bone, departs to God upon death. See Psalms 49:15. Number 3, New Testament anthropological terms. Several New Testament passages use pneuma, that is spirit, or psyche, soul, in a dualistic sense. Hebrews 12:23 refers to deceased but existing human beings in the heavenly Jerusalem as the spirits of righteous people made perfect. Revelation 6:9 through 11 refers to dead saints as the souls of the martyrs who are in the intermediate state awaiting the final resurrection in chapter 20, verse 5 through 6. Several texts refer to death as giving up the spirit. Matthew 27:50, Luke 23:46, Luke 24:37, and John 19:30. Matthew 10:28 says, "Don't fear those who kill the body but are not able to kill the soul. Rather, fear him who is able to destroy both soul and body in hell." In this text, psyche seems clearly to refer to something that can exist without the body. Number 4, the New Testament on the intermediate states. Certain New Testament passages seem to affirm a disembodied intermediate state between death and final resurrection. For instance, there is the Transfiguration passage in Matthew 17:1 through 13, in which Elijah, who never died, and Moses, who had died, appear with Jesus. The most natural way to interpret this text is to understand that Moses and Elijah have continued to exist. Moses was not recreated for this one event and were made temporarily visible. Thus, the Transfiguration passage seems to imply a disembodied intermediate state. In Luke 23:43, Jesus promised the thief on the cross, "Today you will be with me in paradise." The term "today" should be taken in its natural sense, namely as meaning that the man would be with Jesus that very day, in the intermediate state after their deaths. In 2 Corinthians 5:1 through 10 and Philippians 1:21 through 24, Paul referred to a state after death and prior to the resurrection in which people experience a conscious, disembodied, or naked, unclothed existence in God's presence. In 2 Corinthians 12:1 through 4, Paul admitted that during a visionary experience, he did not know whether he was in his body or temporarily disembodied. Because Paul understood himself as a soul/spirit united to a body, the latter state of being disembodied was a real possibility for him.